Chapter 42, called The End of the Green Ember. But just know there's 2 more chapters, so it's not the end of the book. Pickett was afraid, but seeing Jupiter's air on the ground, seeing that monster poised above, and hearing his laughing taunts changed something in Pickett. He was afraid, but a violent fury rose in him, drowning out his fear. Red-Eye Garlickson spoke. "How now, young prince? Where's your keeper? Has your long-treader betrayed you as well?" "I think so." He cackled. "No one will come for you. My wolves have done their work. My spy has done his work. You, like your father, are doomed." "You can never kill enough of us," Smalls said. Pickett wasn't surprised to find his friend's voice even and steady. "Another will arise in my place and deal death to you, just like my father did to yours." Pickett inhaled. He felt for the grip of his sword. A small growl rose in the wolf's throat. "I'll snap your neck, Jupiter Smalls, and feel nothing but delight." Pickett stepped out, ready to run wild at the wolf, but froze when he heard another voice. "Lord Morben waits." This voice didn't belong to any wolf, and it sounded familiar to Pickett, very familiar. He ducked behind the tree, stealing glances at the shadowy scene. "The rest are prepped for Accolin, and Lord Morben wants him added to their number, a crown jewel for his treasure. However," he said, and Pickett saw him emerge from beneath the shadows of the trees across the clearing. "He said it didn't matter much to him whether this rabbit prince lived or died. Of course, you do have quite the score to settle with him, and the settling is just too delicious. I think perhaps we should kill him." Pickett saw who it was and knew why the voice was familiar. Garton Longtreader. Pickett gasped. He looked so much like father. He tried to keep his breathing even and made ready to spring into a last desperate attack. But when he looked again, the gray rabbit was rifling through Small's bag. He stopped, smiled, and removed his hand. In his hand, fused with the last of the day's light, gleamed a large green emerald. Over his uncle's left shoulder, Pickett saw 2 massive birds leave their high perches and fly toward the center of Jupiter's crossing, where Garton Longtreader was poised to order the murder of Jupiter's heir. One was a giant eagle, and the other was a hawk. Not Morben Blackhawk himself, Pickett knew, but these 2 were like him, massive, terrible, and cruel. Pickett almost fainted. Paralyzed with fear, he found it nearly impossible to move, but move he must. He breathed deeply and thought of Master Helmer. "How I wish you were here with me, you mad old soldier." He fingered his sword hilt but left its sheath. An old image of the Starseek game came to his mind, and he relaxed, remembering Heather and the family he loved, the cause they all believed in, and for which he was willing to die. And the Starseek game reminded him of another thing, of how his mind worked, of what he was good at. He made one last quick look at the scene, then whipped back behind the tree, his back plastered to the trunk. He closed his eyes and mapped out his foolhardy attack. One breath. He smacked the tree, drumming out the fear. Another breath. He remembered with a welling fury his family's ruined name, the attack on his home, his parents and baby Jack's. One last breath. He thought of the cruel treachery revisiting the royal household here. It must be now. He ran from his cover and straight for the center of the garden. Garton Longtreader examined the green ember with satisfaction, and Red-Eye Garlickson moved to kill Prince Jupiter Smalls. Pickett had covered half the field when he was spotted. Garlickson raised his head, a grim delight on his face. He seemed to recognize Pickett. Garton may have too, for he stepped back quickly and tripped, spilling the emerald high in the air. The birds didn't wait. They flew at Pickett, the foremost one, the eagle, swooping low with his talons poised. Here they come. Pickett never stopped. He just ran faster. The hawk circled behind, directly above Garlickson, behind and above the speeding eagle. Pickett saw how it was. They would take him in turns. When Pickett was a few yards from the swooping eagle, he went as low as he could, shortened his stride, and dropped low to the earth. The eagle smiled, a terrible, knowing smile. The smile seemed to say he'd seen small creatures try this desperate action 100 times, that rabbits were always so very afraid and sank low, but it never helped. They were nearly face to face now, the screeching eagle, so close. The eagle dropped lower, and as he did, Pickett sprang suddenly up, leaping hard and quick at the eagle. The eagle's face was shocked. He lashed out with his talons, but he had hesitated. Pickett raised his powerful feet and soared just past the grasping talons, kicked the eagle's head, and landed heavily on the predator's back. From there, Pickett sprang again, using the bird's firm back to launch higher into the air. The eagle was driven to the ground and knocked senseless. Meanwhile, Pickett flew. He sailed through the air with terrific force right at the circling hawk. This bird, stunned by what he'd seen, extended his wings and tried to beat back a short, regrouping retreat. It was too late. Pickett spun forward in the air, feet over his head. As the bird's wings extended, Pickett planted his powerful feet in the hawk's middle. It was devastating. The hawk was knocked back to fall spiraling to the earth. Pickett's momentum had been arrested in midair. Beneath him, Red-Eye Garlickson was stunned. He swerved from Smalls to face this rabbit, falling like a meteor from the sky. And Pickett did fall. He fell fast, and as he did, he drew his sword for the first time in one lightning motion. Garlickson turned and looked up just in time to see the flashing blade that ended his life. He lay dead on the ground as the red sun set. Pickett rose slowly to his full height, breathing hard. He stared at his sword and at the lifeless wolf. A moment later, Pickett sliced the ropes that had Smalls and helped him up. Garton Longtreader had fled, at first crawling, then running through the woods. The hawk was nowhere to be seen. "My brother," said Smalls. Pickett smiled. "My place beside you, my blood for yours, till the green ember rises, or the end of the world." Smalls nodded gravely. He bent to find his sword. It was lying right beside a small green gem. Smalls slid on his satchel and returned the stone into the bag. "We need to go," said Smalls. But as he did, the woods ahead came alive. A row of wolves appeared, nearly 50, snarling furiously. Pickett shook his head. "Of course," Master Helmer said, "there's no happy endings." Smalls smiled sadly at Pickett. "Let's make it a good end," he said. "Yes, my lord," said Pickett, bowing quickly. Somehow he felt unstoppable. "Let's make them remember." They drew their blades and stood side by side, shoulder to shoulder at the center of Jupiter's crossing. The wolves charged, teeth bared, spears poised. Pickett braced himself for the end. But before the attacking wolves got halfway to the rabbits, they slowed and then stopped. They hesitated, their eyes widened. Pickett heard a noise from behind. He turned. A host of furious rabbits crashed into the clearing. Uncle Wilfred was at their head, and beside him was Helmer. They were flanked by soldiers, captains, and lords from various citadels and from the Forest Guard. Lord Rake, Lord Victor Blackstar, Captain Fry, Hayward, and 100 others charged in. "For Jupiter's blood and Jupiter's air," they cried. "And for the green ember," Lord Blackstar shouted. They drew even with Smalls and Pickett and all advanced together, putting the ragged band of wolves to flight. The end. Only 2 more chapters.